All right, let's talk about zeros of a function. Zero the hero. So, um, zeros. We have a lot of different words that we could use for zeros. You've probably heard of roots. Think about what roots are. X-intercepts, and those are real zeros. What could that mean? What would not be real? And then solutions. So these three terms we could use to describe zeros. But we have a few examples listed below. These are all in your packet. It says the zeros, why does it do that? It says the zeros of the following functions are as follows. So let's look at the first one. We have y equals 3x minus 5, and its zero is x equals 5/3. We have h of x, that's x squared plus 9. Ooh, and it has two zeros. It has x equals 3i and negative 3i. Do you remember what I equals? Interesting. Okay. For j of x, we have that its zero is x equals 0. Think about if I plug that in. For g of x, natural log of x, its 0 is 1. If you remember your log rules. And last but not least, f of x, it has two zeros this time. 7 and x equals 2. Now, something to keep in mind, we didn't really have any examples of these, but we had cases where we had 1 0 or 2 zeros. Just keep in mind that it is possible for there to be an infinite amount of zeros. And it's also possible for there to be no zeros, zero zeros. So just keep that in mind. So just looking at the examples above and using your previous knowledge, I would guess that you have some. How can you find the zeros of any function if you are given the equation? So in other words, we were given the zeros in the problems above. How are those solved for? In your own words, why are these called zeros? Why do we choose that word? So go ahead, put me on pause, and I'd like you to respond to those. Okay, so two more things for us to think about. If you are given only the graph of a function, how could you find the zeros of the function? And another thing I want you to think about is if you're given only the graph of a function, what are you limited to finding with regards to the zeros? Hint, look at h of x above. Okay, so h of x in the examples that you saw above. I'd like you guys again to put me on pause, and I want you to write a response and really think about what these questions are asking. A little hint for this one here, think about what other words we use for zeros. We wrote three different terms before, so how can you find the zeros of a function given the graph? Think about what else we could call zeros. Go ahead and pause me. All right, awesome. Well, here we have our conclusion. We have everything that we had talked about before. Notice that the one new thing that we can add to this is that real meaning of zeros, what it means. We have different words that we can use. Roots, x-intercepts, which would be real zeros, and solutions. Cool.